everyone, welcome to Redefining Our Understanding of Alcohol in Europe, a talk show to launch the WHO European campaign on alcohol and health. My name is Veronica Danna and I'm a communications officer here at WHO Europe.
And I'm Dante Licona, a communicator and speaker. Greetings from Copenhagen. Veronica, what can our audience expect from us today?
Well, Dante, we have about 1 hour to hear from participants all across Europe, to hear about their experience with alcohol. We have a lot of campaign material as well developed that you can find in the campaign page that will be linked in the description of this video. Now, the main themes of the campaign, called Redefine Alcohol, are three. The first is about the lesser-known harms that you may not know about from drinking alcohol. The second is about the link between alcohol and cancer. And the third is about the benefits you can experience from reducing your alcohol consumption, also in terms of the risk of chronic diseases. Now, I would like to introduce you to our first guest, Benoit Donofrio. Benoit is a sommelier, but he is also a sober sommelier, a sobrielier, if you will. He has joined us in the studio today to tell us more about his decision. Now, hi, Benoit. Now, Benoit, what inspired you to become a sober sommelier in France?
Well, being a sober sommelier comes from a decision of making space to more beverages varieties. I wanted to offer different options besides alcoholic drinks in order to help people understand that sophistication and complexity was available amongst other type of drinks without necessarily having to face alcohol.
Mm. And do you have an advice for someone who wants to change their ways and wants to change the way they think about alcohol?
Go on and ask restaurant owners, bartenders for non-alcoholic drinks, and let's challenge them. Have them realize that there's a true aspiration for new type of drinks, and therefore encourage them to go and dig those new drinks that will be in the future placed on our tables and counters.
Very interesting. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Now, our next guest is Denise. Denise lives in Germany. She's an actress and a singer. And she has been reflecting about alcohol and social norms. Welcome, Denise. We're sorry we couldn't have you in the studio today, but it's great to see you online.
Yeah, I'm happy to see you too. And I'm very inspired by Benoit, who just gave us the beautiful advice to challenge the bartender. And I think that's a great idea because most of the times you get this drink or this water with no ice, with no fancy stuff on it. And to challenge the bartender is a good idea. And that's what I'm doing all the time.
So when is it that you first thought about alcohol and you rethought about the social norms around alcohol linked to society?
I must say that first I was thinking about alcohol was at events, at family events, because I think most of the families are celebrating the get-together with alcohol. And so in my family, many of them were having this glass of beer or this glass of wine, and at the end of the party or the event, it wasn't as relaxed as in the beginning. And that's one situation I was thinking about alcohol, because my mother, she wasn't drinking with the rest of the family, but most of them were drunk. And also, as an actress, I'm invited to many events, and it's always about the drinks and to get to become relaxed and to just have your drink and cheer and get in touch with the audience there and with the other people at the event. And I think that's really complicated and not a good idea, because people are losing themselves in the drink. And I want to be myself when I'm meeting my colleagues and people who could hire me.
So how have you then redefined these social norms then for yourself?
So I'm still going to events and I'm still celebrating life and I'm still having fun, also without alcohol. And I do ask for a nice drink when I'm at a big event. So there are fancy events for actors with a red carpet and they have everything. But if you want to drink something non-alcoholic, you just get your bottle of water and that's really sad. So I just ask for a nice drink also for myself so that I don't have to tell everyone, oh no, I'm not having alcohol because of. But if people are asking me, I would also appreciate to tell them why I think it isn't a good idea to get drunk all the time.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing, Denise. Too bad you couldn't be here with us today.
Now, who can share information about the hidden harms of alcohol with us? Well, medical professionals. And today, our next guest is precisely that. He is a trained doctor that lives in Slovakia. And last year, he joined a WHO Youth Network specifically on alcohol and health. Today, he is joining us online. Hello, Hamid. It's great to see you.
Hello, Dante. Lovely to see you again.
It's a pleasure always to continue learning from you. And I want for you to share with our audience, since you recently joined the WHO Youth Network on alcohol, how has that experience been for you and for your colleagues?
Once again, thank you so much for having me. And to say the least, I would say it is no less than a transformative experience for myself and also for my colleagues in the network. It does feel like it's not just a network, but more a movement towards a greater good, which absolutely it is. And it has opened my eyes and also, of course, my colleagues to the sheer scale of alcohol-related harms. And if I was to summarize that what it has given us in 3 words, I would say perspective, platform, and hope. Perspective, that how important it is to talk about this and how important as a youth, our involvement it is. And also a platform to work with advocates and like-minded individuals from across the Europe towards a goal which we work for together. And also to work with other professionals, not just medical professionals and doctors, but rather you were there. You saw that in network you have people from background with law, with communication, with policy, and all of them coming together to work towards a shared goal, a shared perspective, which is to reduce the alcohol-related harms in Europe. So it has been a transformative experience.
What do you think we can do better to increase awareness about alcohol and cancer, and particularly among young people?
I think we need to ignite a shift in the mindset. It is not, of course, facts and figures are important, but it's not just about that. When it comes to alcohol, it's a complex topic because it's embedded now in our cultures. So it has to be a change of narratives, and we need to start framing alcohol not as a social norm, but rather a public health issue. And I think one of the most important things there is education on different levels, whether it's for healthcare professionals, to educate them, to capacitate them how to do public awareness, to also educate young individuals, youth, all the way from high school, to empower them to actually inform them that what it can cause, and also to have public awareness overall with public and have that information to say in a local wise from real life stories from healthcare professionals, from marginalized communities, that what can actually cause. And other than that, we need stronger policy actions, bold actions when it comes to marketing regulations, or marketing campaign when it comes to alcohol marketing or labeling. You can recall probably a couple of decades ago, no one would look into the label of the nutritions on different products. But today it's a thing, because being fit and being healthy, it's a norm, and it's a healthy lifestyle is a thing. So we need to bring that also to the alcohol narrative, and we need to have visible alcohol labeling.
Thank you very much, Hamid, for sharing your perspective, your experience. And to all our viewers, an invitation, if you want to follow and learn more from Hamid, you can look for him on LinkedIn. And now we go all the way to Portugal. We are going to talk to Margarida Santos, who is a general practitioner. She realized that medical concepts are quite complex for most of the general population. So naturally, she started a health literacy project on Instagram to empower people with knowledge about their health. Margarida, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for this amazing invitation. It was so nice hearing Dr. Hamid as well, and it's been nice to hear all of you. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. And let's get right to the questions. Like, in your work with your community, what common myths about alcohol do you find? And how do you address them?
So as a general practitioner, I frequently encounter several common myths that I'm sure all of you have heard about. A prevalent belief is that moderate alcohol consumption is always harmless or even beneficial. We've heard it in social media. And this is particularly true for heart health. And many patients believe, for example, that wine is healthy because of its antioxidant content and a lot of other myths. And the truth is, we know that this is not true, but it's a hard myth to change people's mind on because we've heard it for a long, long time. Another common myth is that alcohol will help you sleep or will help with anxiety, when we know it's exactly the opposite. We know that alcohol disrupts sleep cycles and it won't help with mental health issues or anxiety or depression. So I feel like addressing these myths is very important when I give an appointment or when I'm on consultation, but also on social media, because that's where mainly they're spread out. And this requires not only correcting misinformation, but also just overall improving health literacy and letting people know about alcohol's short-term and long-term effects on the body. So as health professionals, we have a responsibility to stay up to date and know what the latest research has told us, and then translate that knowledge for the patients and allowing them to have empowering conversations. And I feel like that's very important for us to bust those myths and make it like a normal conversation and an appealing conversation as well.
Some people are very curious about medical interventions. Are those enough to reduce harms from alcohol in the population? What's your experience from your practice?
So I feel like, no, I feel like it's definitely a very important step. And it needs to start with medical information as well, but it's definitely insufficient if you want to reduce alcohol-related harm in population. And I feel like the government and bigger organizations have a big paper here. So it's crucial to address alcohol use disorder as a whole. And to really reduce harm, I feel like a broader societal shift is needed with stronger public health policies. And for example, having policies on marketing about alcohol. Here in Portugal, we see it a lot. During festivities, we have a lot of advertisement about alcohol, and definitely there needs to be a little more policies on marketing on this culture that normalizes heavy drinking. Also with kids drinking, and we have a lot of adolescents with more access to alcohol. And I think that's also an area where public policies need definitely to be a little more aggressive and need to change this cultural shift where alcohol is just like a great excuse to get around and gather around a table, because there's other ways, and we've talked about it. There's other ways to communicate and to have a gathering without consuming alcohol. So I think definitely there needs to be a societal shift, and we need to reinforce these public policies.
Thank you very much, Margarida. Obrigada, and all the very best.
Obrigada. Thank you so much.
Now we move on to talking about possible solutions, and we will address those that are most effective: alcohol control policies. For that, we will talk to Dr. Pedro Guyon. He is from Spain. He's the Director General of Public Health and Health Equity at the Ministry of Health in Spain. We caught Dr. Pedro Guyon during his busy commute and have recorded the answers to our questions. What does it take to tackle alcohol harm? And what are you doing in Spain?
If we can summarize the actions that we want to do in Spain, is to try to tackle commercial determinants of health. And that needs a lot of courage. I think we have a very good window of opportunity right now, because all the people that we are working on public health, we want to reduce alcohol harms, and that's really good, because then it's easy to have this power. I would say that in this way that we try to reduce alcohol consumption, alcohol harms via reducing the impact of commercial determinants of health. Now we are starting with the youth population. So our first priority is the youth population, because it's easier in terms of political of all the political terms, because we understand that children are more vulnerable to the consumption of alcohol, and also because nobody is going to say, hey, let's children get to drink. But then you also need courage, because we are trying to ban all the advertisement of alcohol in places where youth population can be. We try to regulate also the availability of alcohol in some places. After that, we want to have the next step in adults, and in the steps that we want to do in adults, we want to do something that is kind of different. That is to create a very powerful society that can go with us in the policies of alcohol consumption. We want to create big groups of people with civil society, with professional society, etc., that can help us to have the political power to reduce alcohol consumption and the impact of commercial determinants of health. If we have this power, we can have better policies, and also we will make things really easy for other policy makers. It's not the same as you are the only one fighting this alone, and if we have the civil society, that's something we have learned from all the policies on tobacco, that it has been really important to have the civil society on your part.
And is it important to raise awareness about harms from alcohol in the population?
WHO has made a great effort to summarize all the evidence and translate the evidence to different countries, and that's helpful for all the member states in the world. So now that we have the evidence, we have the priorities that we know that works. We know what actions works to reduce alcohol consumption and the harms of alcohol. Now we have to get to a point, and in terms of that and linking that with creating a critical society with alcohol consumption, we need to create this kind of groups with leaders in different terms. We're talking about youth leaders, we are talking about leaders in social media, we're talking about professional leaders in the medical field and other fields that can help us to distribute this information to raise awareness in the general population.
Thank you, Dr. Guyon. We go now to our next guest. We have with us Ruby Warrington. She's an author, editor, and journalist who has coined the term sober curious. She also wrote a book and created a podcast about it. She's joining us online today from the US to give us some insights into the sober curious movement. Welcome, Ruby.
Hello, thanks so much for having me.
Can you tell us what the sober curious movement is, and do you think it's a passing trend or is it here to stay?
So the sober curious movement is really about giving people permission to question their drinking. We've heard already so often about what's really needed in terms of reducing the harms of alcohol consumption is to create a social shift in terms of how we think about drinking. And for so long, the attitude has been that for any adult human, alcohol consumption, and often very excessive alcohol consumption, is normal. But being sober curious is really about allowing people to question, do I want to engage with the alcohol culture? What is the true impact of drinking on my well-being? What would it look like to not consume alcohol? Often these are only questions that people get to ask when their drinking consumption has got so bad that they need to be in addiction, in recovery for alcohol addiction. By offering people the option to be sober curious, I'm saying it doesn't have to get that bad where your life is on the line before you start to ask these questions. And in terms of whether or not I think this is a passing trend, my first book, Sober Curious, came out 5 years ago, and I am only seeing more and more interest in this subject. I think the more people who hear the term sober curious, the more people are getting intrigued about what it would be like to live a life without alcohol or with reduced alcohol consumption. And I've seen so many times through people who get sober curious that there's a sort of a ripple effect when one person starts to realize actually the benefits of living without alcohol. They tell their friends, they tell their family members. And so more people get sober curious. So I don't think this is a passing trend. I think this is the beginning of the social shift that we've been talking about. I think this is a beginning of alcohol being seen very differently in our societies.
Thank you so much, Ruby. And it's great to hear that this is a growing movement. In fact, we have reached out to European content creators to hear about their take on the Sober Curious movement, what it means to them. There are 3 answers. We have Hannah, Millie, and Laura.
For me, being sober curious is very personal. It helped me to understand the role alcohol played in my life, especially in social settings where I saw myself as the party girl. It made me think about how alcohol was affecting my mental health, my relationships, and my self-esteem. Sober curiosity allowed me to step back and ask why I was drinking and if it was really benefiting me, and it wasn't at all. For me, being sober is not about labeling myself, it's about discovering a healthier, more authentic, alcohol-free way of living. I believe sober curiosity is here to stay. It may have started as a trend, but more and more people are realizing how alcohol affects their health and especially their mental well-being. It's no longer just about taking a break from drinking for a month, but about creating a lifestyle where people feel better about their choices. I think people are shifting towards a more mindful way of living, and rethinking alcohol is a big part of that. And I think this mindset will only continue to grow, and I think it's great.
To me, being sober means absolutely everything. My entire life changed when I got sober. It's allowed me to be a better daughter, a better friend, a better sister. It's completely transformed my mental health in particular, which is something that I was struggling really badly with when I was drinking. And yeah, it just means everything. I think it's important to be part of a community because it can be really isolating when you first stop drinking. I did not know a single other person when I was 26 who wasn't drinking. And when I found friends on the internet who were like me, were going through what I was going through, it was an absolute game changer to just feel less alone, to feel like you're like not the only one who is struggling with this. I think it is transformative.
I started drinking to numb the feeling of not fitting in. But there came a point when I realized I couldn't keep going down that path. Being sober to me is about exploring life without relying on alcohol and understanding how this choice impacts my mental and physical well-being. As someone diagnosed with ADHD later in life, sobriety is especially significant to me. People with ADHD often experience sensory overload or emotional dysregulation, and for many, alcohol may seem like an easy way to unwind and manage these overwhelming feelings. For all of us, sober curiosity offers an opportunity to examine why we turn to alcohol in the first place and whether it truly serves us. I believe this is more than just a short-term trend. It's a sustainable lifestyle shift that encourages mindful choices and helps us find healthier coping mechanisms. The Sober Curious movement isn't just about abstaining. It focuses on the positive effects that reducing or quitting alcohol can have. And personally, I think dancing sober is the best stress relief. Not drinking alcohol is good for mental health, but sober curiosity alone won't solve the mental health crisis. Addressing this crisis requires broad systemic actions that go beyond individual choices about alcohol. The Sober Curious movement opens the door for deeper conversations about mental health and well-being. Let's use this movement as a catalyst for global actions.
Now, what are your thoughts about the difference between the message of being sober curious and the one we see a lot about drinking responsibly?
There is a big difference here. I actually think, as well-meaning as it is, the message to drink responsibly is a bit of an oxymoron. A lot of the time, people are using alcohol to forget their responsibilities, to be irresponsible. And so it's sort of a confusing message. Being sober curious is really about examining whether alcohol has any place in your life and really getting into the deeper questions about, why do I feel the need to drink in the first place? Why is it so appealing to me? Why do I feel so stressed out? And it feels like alcohol is the only way that I can relieve my stress, et cetera, which, as the influencers touched on, is part of a much deeper conversation about mental health and the role that alcohol plays in people medicating their stress, their anxiety, and other sort of mental health issues, which have a much deeper root. So I understand the messaging around responsible drinking, mindful drinking, but the nature of the substance itself also makes it very, very difficult to drink moderately when your goal is to get drunk and forget your worries and forget your responsibilities. So sober curiosity is about a longer term, more sustainable shift in your drinking. And what I will say is that a lot of people, the majority of people, come to being sober curious with the ultimate goal of removing alcohol from their lives completely. And I think that is a very valid goal, rather than attempting to find a way to keep alcohol in your life in a way that's not doing the harms that you might have identified already. And so, yeah, sober curious is about creating a long-term shift versus moderating current behavior.
Thank you so much for that, Ruby, and thank you for joining us online.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone, we're getting close to the end of the show, but we cannot leave without sharing some lesser-known facts about alcohol and health. So we will do exactly that. For that, we asked Benoit and, of course, Veronica to participate in a true or false quiz. I will ask the questions, Benoit will give us his reactions, and Veronica will share the evidence-based answers. Are you ready, colleagues?
Yes. Ready.
Excellent. True or false? The most common cause of death due to alcohol in Europe is from liver disease. The most common cause of death due to alcohol in Europe is from liver disease. Benoit.
There I'd go for false.
Yeah. Benoit is right. It's false. It's heart diseases.
Heart diseases. There you go. Let's move on. In Europe, 1 in 4 deaths among young people aged 20 to 25 are linked to alcohol. In Europe, 1 in 4 deaths among young people aged 20 to 25 are linked to alcohol. What do you think, Benoit?
Well, sadly, I'd say that one is true.
Is it?
Sadly, it is true. This is mostly due to injuries. So it can be road traffic accidents or suicides.
And here is the last of our true or false quiz. Alcohol has no impact on brain development. Alcohol has no impact on brain development. What do you think, Benoit?
Definitely false.
Yeah, Benoit is yet again correct. The brain actually still develops until about the age of 25. And so alcohol is harmful to the developing brain, especially of young people. Now, thank you so much for playing True and False with us. You will find out more, and you have access to more information in the campaign material that we have developed. I remind you that the campaign page is linked to in the comments and description down here. I want to thank everyone here. I want to thank my co-host Dante. I want to thank Benoit for joining us today. And until we meet again,